I will definitely stick to the rules of the game, sir. You know, it says 12:29. I'll stop at 12:44.
Good.
Now,
no, I'll grant you one more minute.
So
12:45.
Shows your kindness. Thank you so much. You know, Tyagaraja sang a wonderful poem, and I've always been inspired by it. He said, "Endaro Mahanubhavulu, Andariki na Vandanamu." Said there are wonderful people in the audience, you know, and they are great people, and I salute them all. Let me start with that salutation, mainly because it was a humbling experience. I'm not very sure how often does one get to speak in the presence of a person from DST, from the Planning Commission, and let's say 3 Vice Chancellors and a past Principal Secretary. And above all, there are brilliant scientists here. I'm sure they are all far more articulate, and there are wonderful students. Once again, while I salute, I am conscious of the level of competence that is ready here, and therefore I am inspired to stick to the rules of the game. The second and the third name, Shalin and Dr. Kirit Shelar, do not take the responsibility for the mistakes in the presentation. You know, it's only mine. I had to include Dr. Kirit Shelar and Shalin because they were also responsible for developing the framework which you liked. That is, to be very precise. Now, I will allocate 5 minutes of the presentation to respond to the call which Dr. Kirit Shelar wanted. And that call was, he said, don't get too much into technicalities. The presentation should be such that students gain a lot. Sir, I will fulfill your request. Right? And the second 5 minutes is an extempore presentation in response to the challenge that you posed. Can there be a menu of activities that you can take that the Planning Commission can consider? I'm sure you're going to like what I'll say. Right? And the next 5 minutes, I'll wind up what I have to say. Now, therefore, this is a joint presentation and some emerging trends. I will invest only 5 minutes. The points that I'm going to raise are beyond. In fact, Dr. Sinha may like to know that I very studiously marked, and maybe I do not know if you noticed, there were 5 cross-cutting specific strategies which you mentioned, and there were 4 technology strategies, and very importantly, 7 opportunity resource center opportunities, and finally you said there should be immediate, medium and long-term activities. The Planning Commission person, Sir Dr. Sadamati, may like to know that these are cross-cutting, these are critical to what we are going to state in terms of specifics a few moments later. The students may like to know that my presentation very rapidly in a minute is going to say that these are the 5 points the presentation has. What are the immediate concerns? What is India's approach? You must know this. When you go out of the hall, you must be clear about what does India want. Are they the only people in the world who are talking about this? Do you think it's only us who is talking about it, or is the whole world talking about it? The whole world is talking about it, and our presentation here very clearly lists who are the people talking about it. Therefore, can we interact with them? And therefore, what are the lessons for the way forward? I will not get into this, these are fundamentals, but you must know that what is expected by the year 2100. Please do not trivialize this 2100. आपको ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए कि यार 2100 में हम नहीं होंगे. ऐसा नहीं है. You know, the studies which are also being done today are about studies about observations which have got embedded in nature millions of years ago. Therefore, what we do today is also important in the future. These are all based on models. But as students, again, you may like to know that some of the models say that there could be enormous rainfall, 15 to 40% increase in the rainfall in the future, and warming can be more pronounced. This is from the Ministry of Environment and Forests. Now, what does India stand? India's stand is, which is very important for you to know, do not think that agriculture is bad and it is only contributing to global warming. No, not at all. As Dr. Kirit Shelar has been emphasizing, agriculture is also seen as a mitigation option. How many of you marked that sentence with which he started? It is the best natural process by which photosynthesis happens, and in that context, making use of agriculture, we want to make sure that we eliminate poverty, we are also able to help social and economic development. And the name of the game, if somebody were to ask you when you walk out, what is India going to focus on? It is adaptation. Right. You may like to know again that India has these missions, and as part of the missions, the most important task is drought proofing. Now, what is adaptation? If somebody were to ask you when you again go out, please remember, there are 2 words. It says no regret policy. That is the meaning of adaptation in terms of policy. what is more important, it also means we do something by which our strengths increase. Reduce vulnerability, reducing vulnerability. Where we face shocks, we crumble, but adaptation is to reduce that vulnerability. Strength in action, that is the meaning of adaptation. And how can that happen? These are the 6 important areas, these are 6 cross-cutting areas. We will leave the presentation and you may like to look at it. Now, the Planning Commission specialists and the others have always been telling us that you don't have to create any solutions anew. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. This means, is it possible for us to align adaptation work with some existing programs? Some of the most important ones are the Rajiv Gandhi Drinking Water Mission, the Swachhat Bharat, which talk about water conservation. And please remember, even if you're going to talk about water conservation, we are going to contribute to 3.45 million metric tons of carbon dioxide when we are going to do so many of these. This means, even when you are talking of a technology intervention, there are problems of generating a lot of greenhouse gases. Now, know about this program, the Climate Rise program. The Climate Rise program is being done as a very clear pilot by the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. The Tamil Nadu Agriculture University is working in the Kaveri Basin to understand what will happen to rice varieties, precisely with reference to temperature changes, with reference to water changes, and how best can adaptation take place, what are the mitigation measures. This is a very important learning site. It will be very good for the agricultural universities to link with the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University to know, and the name of the program is Climate Rise here. Now, if that is so, let us look at. Now, I've spent more than 4 minutes on this. Let us take 2 minutes. The Americans, for instance, are also very, very conscious about the mitigation potential of agriculture. And this very important paper from the Pew Center has highlighted these benefits. It is very clearly stated, so that carbon dioxide can be sequestered, it can store carbon, and through agricultural best practices, these other 3 can also be managed. Therefore, agriculture is very clearly a very comprehensive solution. Pick MAT. If I was you, I will very quickly note down this word, and I'll do a lot of homework later. It's called PICMAT, P-I-C-C-M-A-T. How many of you know what PICMAT is? Any idea what is PICMAT? Will it help you to know